The air was heavy with the scent of roses as Sarah Thompson walked through the garden at 1247 Cedar Lane. The home she had inherited from her grandfather, Henry Thompson. It had been just 2 weeks since his funeral, and the weight of his absence pressed against her chest like a stone. Each step on the gravel path stirred memories of Henry's warm voice. Sarah. Flowers need love to bloom. Nothing beautiful grows without it. The garden, his sanctuary, felt alive with his presence, as if he were still there, tending to his beloved roses. For Sarah, this house wasn't just a building, it was a tapestry of love woven from years of shared moments with her grandparents. Henry's will had named Sarah, a 25-year-old social worker, as the sole heir to the house. It was a gift born of his belief that she alone understood its emotional value, not just its worth as property. At 25, Sarah was grateful to be surrounded by these memories. But the grief of losing Henry gnawed at her, leaving her emotionally raw and unprepared for what was to come. On a crisp Tuesday morning in Seattle, a thick envelope arrived in her mailbox. Her breath caught when she saw the sender, Thompson & Associates law firm. Her father's practice. With trembling hands, she tore it open. The bold title of the document inside hit her like a slap. Petition to invalidate will. The words blurred as she read the accusations. Henry Thompson, they claimed, had suffered severe cognitive decline after a stroke in March 2024 and was not of sound mind when he drafted his will in November of that year. Worse, they alleged that Sarah had manipulated him to secure the inheritance. Sarah sank to the floor, anger and sorrow crashing over her like waves. They weren't just tarnishing Henry's memory, they were branding her a fraud. Her phone buzzed, and her mother's name flashed on the screen. Claire Thompson's voice was cold as ice. Sarah, I assume you've received the documents. This is for the family's sake. You may not understand now, but you will. Sarah's voice shook as she protested, insisting Henry was lucid and his will reflected his true wishes. Claire cut her off. He was confused after the stroke. We have medical records. You took advantage of his vulnerability. I never did that, Sarah said, her voice breaking. He loved me, that's all. Love? Claire sneered. That house is worth $3 million. Do you really think someone like you, drowning in student loans, can handle an asset like that? Sarah hung up, her hands trembling. That night, she retreated to Henry's study. A room filled with his essence, books, old photographs, and his leather-bound journal. She flipped to an entry dated 5 days before he wrote the will. Sarah came by today. She helped winterize the garden. The others only talk about money. But she gets my heart. Leaving the house to her is the right choice. She'll care for Margaret's roses the way they deserve. The words were a lifeline. But they also deepened the sting of her family's betrayal. Amid the turmoil, Sarah faced a dilemma. A year earlier, she had committed to a volunteer program overseas, and the departure date was approaching. Torn between staying to fight for Henry's legacy and honoring his values. She recalled his words. Sarah, never forget the importance of helping those in need. That's true wealth. With a resolve to confront her family upon her return, she boarded a plane for a week-long volunteer mission in Kenya. There, working with children at an orphanage in Nairobi, she found solace. Their handmade bracelets and a small voice whispering, Sarah, come back someday, stayed with her long after she left. When Sarah landed back at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, rain poured from the sky. But her heart felt lighter. She drove straight to Henry's house, eager to immerse herself in his memories and plan her next steps. But at 3 p.m., as she approached 1247 Cedar Lane, something felt wrong. The front doorknob gleamed, newer than she remembered. Her key didn't fit. She tried again, then hurried to the back door, only to find a shiny new padlock. Panic surged through her. She dialed her mother. Mom, my key doesn't work. What's going on? After a long silence, Claire's voice came, colder than ever. You're no longer allowed inside, Sarah, until the legal matters are resolved. Your sister Lauren will manage the property. This is my house, Sarah protested. Not anymore, Claire said. Hanging up, a text followed. The locks have been changed. Your belongings are in the backyard. Heart pounding, Sarah stumbled to the backyard. 3 large trash bags sat on the wet grass. Soaked through. Inside were her clothes, documents, and keepsakes, now damaged by the rain. A wooden bird figurine Henry had carved for her had a broken wing. Her grandmother's hand-knit sweater was caked in mud. Worst of all, Henry's most cherished items, his pocket watch. A photo of their rose garden. The fairy tale book he read to her as a child, were gone. She called Lauren, her voice shaking with fury. Why didn't you say anything? This is illegal. Lauren's voice trembled. It was Mom and Dad's decision. I didn't want the family to fall apart. You call locking me out and leaving my things in the rain a family? Sarah snapped. Lauren sobbed. I'm sorry, I couldn't stop it. From across the garden, Mrs. Jenkins, their neighbor, called out, Sarah, you okay? A moving truck came this morning and took the furniture. Sarah's heart sank. The furniture too? Yes. The old piano and bookshelf. Your parents were giving orders. Everything Henry loved, stripped away without her consent. Defeated, Sarah called her friend Rachel. Please help. I've been locked out, and I have nowhere to go. An hour later, Rachel arrived, silently loading Sarah's soaked belongings into her car. You need to take legal action, she said as she drove. This is an illegal eviction. But they're my family, Sarah whispered. That doesn't give them the right to trample you. Rachel replied. What would Henry say if he saw this? That night, on Rachel's couch, Sarah stared at the ceiling, haunted by the question, why would her own family steal the home Henry gave her out of love? But his voice echoed in her mind. Sarah, don't give up. Love is worth fighting for. By morning, her resolve hardened. She would fight. Sarah met with attorney Michael Brooks. Ms. Thompson, your grandfather's will is airtight. He assured her. Medical records show no cognitive impairment. He passed a mental competency evaluation when the will was drafted. Relief flickered. But Sarah knew the battle was far from over. Days later, while sorting through Henry's papers, she found a small USB drive in a wooden box. Engraved with his handwriting, for Sarah. When you need it. Her hands shook as she plugged it into her laptop. Henry's face appeared, his voice steady and clear. Recorded in October 2024, My dearest Sarah. If you're watching this, you're facing tough times. Today, Robert and Claire pressured me to sell the house, claiming my stroke left me unfit. That's a lie. My mind is sharp, and I'm recording this to prove it. The video shifted to the living room. Her parents sat across from Henry. Real estate brochures spread out. Dad, face reality. Her father, Robert, said, this house is expensive to maintain. We've found a great retirement home. I'm not leaving, Henry replied firmly. This house holds Margaret's memories. Claire chimed in. It's dangerous for you to live alone. You're burdening Sarah. Sarah's a kind soul, Henry countered. She's the only one who truly understands me. Robert's tone sharpened. This house is an asset. If managed right, it could secure the family's future. Leaving it to someone as young as Sarah is reckless. My property is mine to decide, Henry said. I'm leaving it to Sarah. She'll care for it with love. Claire's voice turned icy. If you're stubborn, we'll have a doctor evaluate your mental capacity. Are you threatening me? Henry asked. It's for the family's good, Claire replied. The video ended with Henry's final words. Sarah. They'll challenge the will after I'm gone. But my intentions are clear. This house is yours. Don't let them win. Sarah brought the USB to Michael Brooks. His eyes lit up. This is ironclad evidence. It proves Henry's lucidity and your parents' undue pressure. We'll file for an emergency injunction. A week later, at the King County Courthouse, Sarah faced her parents and Lauren across the room. Their lawyer argued Henry's alleged cognitive decline. But Michael countered with the video. As Henry's voice filled the courtroom, silence fell. His clarity and the manipulative tactics of Sarah's parents were undeniable. Michael added, the petitioners illegally evicted my client and destroyed her property. Serious violations of her rights. Robert leapt up, shouting, she's not my daughter. She betrayed us and used Dad's memory against us. Mr. Thompson, the judge snapped. This is a court of law. Control yourself. Claire, tears streaming, cried, we maintained that house for 30 years. And now it's handed to a kid who's never known struggle. Sarah stood, her voice steady. My grandfather chose me because of love, not money. The judge's gavel fell. The petitioner's actions, unauthorized lock changes, property destruction, and interference with inheritance, are an affront to the law. I rule in favor of Sarah Thompson, ordering immediate restoration of the property and compensation. As they left, Robert spat. You're no longer my daughter. Sarah turned, her voice calm. That's fine. Grandpa was my only real family. That night, back in the reclaimed house, Sarah stood before Henry's photo. I did it, Grandpa. I protected your love. But the fight, both legal and emotional, was only the beginning. The rain fell in relentless sheets, mirroring the storm within Sarah Thompson's heart as she stood in the garden of 1247 Cedar Lane. 3 months had passed since her courtroom victory. But the house her grandfather Henry had left her felt more like a mausoleum than a home. Every corner whispered memories of betrayal, her parents' cold accusations, the changed locks, her belongings tossed into the rain-soaked grass. The weight of it all was crushing her. At 25, Sarah had fought to reclaim the house, believing it would honor Henry's love. But now, surrounded by its walls, she felt only the sting of her family's rejection. In the flickering light of Henry's study, Sarah traced her fingers over his old journal, her eyes catching a line that stopped her cold. The greatest gift you can give someone you love is to wish for their happiness, even if it means letting go. The words pierced her. Had she been clinging to the house out of duty, letting it become a monument to resentment rather than love? That night, unable to sleep, she made a decision. She would sell the house, valued at $890, and use the funds to expand her social work, bringing Henry's compassion to others. It felt like the truest way to honor him. The next morning, Sarah called Laura Bennett, a trusted real estate agent. It's a beautiful property, Laura said, her voice warm but cautious. Are you sure, Sarah? Emotionally. I mean, that's exactly why, Sarah replied. Before this house becomes a shrine to pain, I want it to be a home for a new family to love. It's what Grandpa would have wanted. As Laura prepared to list the property, Sarah felt a flicker of peace. She imagined the money funding community programs, helping families in need, and carrying forward Henry's legacy of selflessness. But the calm was short-lived. At 8 a.m. the next day, her phone rang. It was her mother, Claire, her voice frantic, a stark contrast to the icy tone Sarah knew so well. Sarah, is it true? You're selling the house? Yes, Sarah said evenly. It goes on the market tomorrow. A long silence followed. Then Claire's voice broke. Please wait. Let's talk. We were wrong. Sarah, your father knows it too. Can't we try to be a family again? Sarah's laugh was bitter. Who was it that stood in court and said, she's not my daughter? That afternoon, her father, Robert, called. His usual commanding tone softened. Sarah, we made a terrible mistake. That house is yours. Please reconsider. Why now? Sarah asked, her voice steady but sharp. Because we're family? Or because you're afraid of losing $890? He didn't answer, and that silence spoke louder than words. The next morning, Sarah opened her door to find her parents standing there, looking smaller than she remembered. Robert held a bouquet of lilies. Claire a homemade apple pie, gestures that felt hollow. We're sorry, Claire said, tears spilling. We were wrong. If you're leaving the house, we won't stop you, Robert added, but it shouldn't be sold. We want to be a family again. Sarah studied their faces, seeing desperation rather than love. It's too late, she said, her voice calm but final. I've chosen to move forward. Claire sobbed. Please, Sarah, give us another chance. I did, Sarah replied. In court. And you chose your path. That night, Sarah called Laura. List the house tomorrow as planned. By morning, a for sale sign stood in the front yard, a symbol of her resolve. Her parents didn't call again. Their sudden apologies exposed as fear of losing the house's value, not a longing for reconciliation. Sarah whispered to Henry's photo. You were right, Grandpa. Real love doesn't come with strings. But the story took an unexpected turn when her sister, Lauren, appeared at Sarah's apartment. At 28, Lauren had always been the favored child, her life cushioned by their parents' indulgence. Now, she looked haunted, her usual confidence replaced by guilt. "Sarah, I need to talk," she said, her voice unsteady. "I want to be honest." Over tea, Lauren's confession poured out. "I've been lying for years. I knew Mom and Dad treated me better. My birthdays were lavish. Yours were modest. They paid my college tuition. You took out loans. I got a car. You were told a bike was a luxury. I stayed silent because I was scared of losing their love. But it wasn't love, it was conditional." Sarah's heart tightened as Lauren continued. "With Grandpa's house, I was a coward. I knew their plan to lock you out. And I didn't warn you. I told myself I was neutral. But I was protecting myself." Tears streamed down Lauren's face. When Dad said in court, "She's not my daughter," I wanted to scream. "You were more his daughter than I'll ever be. You loved Grandpa, helped in his garden, listened to his stories. I never did." Sarah sat silently, the years of isolation within her family suddenly clear. Lauren went on. "I told Mom and Dad you have every right to sell the house. They need to stop interfering. That's why they stopped calling." "Why do this now?" Sarah asked quietly. "To make amends," Lauren said. "But also because you were right. Grandpa chose you out of love. And I think selling the house would betray that. It holds his love. Sarah, turning it into money feels wrong." Her words struck deep. Sarah had been ready to let go. But Lauren's plea stirred something. Was she abandoning Henry's gift by selling? "A family without you isn't a family," Lauren added. "I'm stepping away from Mom and Dad. Their love was conditional. But I want to rebuild with you. And I believe your happiness is in that house." Sarah looked into Lauren's eyes, seeing not the spoiled sister of her childhood but someone grappling with regret. "I need time," Sarah said honestly. "I can't forgive overnight. But maybe you're right about the house." The next morning, Sarah called Laura. "I'm sorry, Laura. Take the house off the market." "What? You were so sure yesterday." "Things have changed," Sarah said. "I'm starting a new life in that house." That afternoon, Sarah returned to 1247 Cedar Lane. The "for sale" sign stood. But it would be gone tomorrow. Stepping inside, she felt a strange calm. The house, once heavy with betrayal, now shimmered with possibility. In Henry's study, she whispered to his photo, "I'm home, Grandpa, truly home." Over the next month, Sarah began restoring the house. She repainted walls in the warm tones Henry loved, replaced torn wallpaper, and scoured antique stores for furniture to echo what was lost. Most importantly, she revived the garden, tending to the rose beds and fruit trees, planting new saplings to breathe life into Henry's sanctuary. Lauren joined her one day, rolling up her sleeves. "I want to learn gardening," she said. "I want to help bring Grandpa's garden back." "You? Your hands will get dirty," Sarah teased. "Maybe that's why I missed what mattered," Lauren replied softly. As sunlight streamed through the windows, they worked side by side, laughter and quiet conversation weaving a new bond. Sarah kept her distance from her parents, waiting for genuine change. Months later, Lauren shared an update. "Mom and Dad are struggling," she said. "Dad's firm lost clients after the lawsuit went public. No one trusts a lawyer who sued his own daughter. Mom's withdrawn from social events. People whisper about how they treated you." Sarah gazed at the blooming roses. "They chose this," she said. "Grandpa said acts without love come back to their source." "Do you feel anything?" Lauren asked. "No," Sarah admitted. "But I don't hate them either. Just consequences." The house was no longer just a building. It was a living testament to Henry's unconditional love. Under the starry sky, Sarah made a silent vow. "I'll pass this love to the next generation. Not through money, but through the here,